Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Okay, guys, I want you to listen to what this professional photographer has to say about some of the ISS footage and the hexagonal refractions that are being seen. Now, this is a professional photographer.
Seems weird. So you can see here in my video that I saved and slowed down, and I cut out a few pieces because this was 4 hours of footage.
This is from the International Space Station, whilst they're doing some I think they're fixing some stuff and making some changes. The footage, they're obliged to take it because I guess the whole thing runs off the back of taxpayers' money, and it's streamed live, these sort of events. And the professional photographer is looking out for anomalies here, which don't really sit too well with her.
That I ended up with. You can see the astronaut here with mirrors on his or her gloves. I'm not sure which one is working on this part right here, but one of the astronauts has mirrors on their gloves, and I found some of the things that were being captured here weird. Like you could see here, we've got this hexagonal light source coming in here, and it
So light source is this, but the refractions are hexagons and not circular like our sun, right?
looks like it could be the sun. But as you saw at the top of the video, this cord or this cable connection piece that you see floating up there on the top, near the top left corner, I found it very odd that if it was the sun, how can this little strap, this cord, take out the light of the sun? Then I'm thinking to myself, hey, that's, this cord that can cut out the sun. Maybe that's not the sun, perhaps it's a light. And that light is pretty freaking bright. And it looks like it has some type of filterized coloring on it. Fresnel lenses are used in photography and used in lighting. They're Fresnel lights, and they have the ability, as far as I know here on Earth, a Fresnel light, you can enhance the spread or the circular projection of the light. You can put filters over the light to give yourself different colors. There are filters with shapes in them, and you can make like fake starlights on your set. You can do lots of fun stuff with Fresnel lights. But the one thing I know about Fresnel lights is they are hot. So that encouraged me to go check out a little bit of what they're using as far as light sources on the ISS. And I came across something called metal halide bulbs. And those look a lot like some of the older lights that I've used. And it's a straight bulb. It's not rounded. It's a line straight across. But the housing unit for the light can come in wider. I'm assuming if it's going on the shuttle or the ISS, it could have a wide varying amount of shapes because it would be custom made for this. I've seen lights come with a square housing, a round housing, and yeah, I know that those lights can be made to create all types of shapes, including the shape that you see here as the baffle. I'm assuming this is a baffle. That's what it looks like to me, that the shuttle that's being moved around here by the astronaut, this looks like a baffle to cover a light. Now, that's probably not what it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it is. But this looks like that's what that is. And what I'm seeing, what appears to me is that the light source that is being covered up at this point, the light source could be coming from within that device, or it could be coming from above it. And I say that the light in front of the astronaut right now could be the light source that's being covered up. I say that that's a possibility just because of the backside of the light where
This is all reference to the Solar Sun Simulator, so I need you guys to home in on what she's saying and how she's explaining it. It's very compelling. The NASA Solar Sun Simulator, artificial sun.
Where the arm is coming from, those the branches, so to speak, that are coming out from the arm look like they're connected to bulbs or the housing casing, the coverage for the bulb. Now, I'm watching, if you're watching right now, still here, you see that the light source that is behind the astronaut is changing colors. So that tells me that you got some filter action going on. So you can have a look here. You can see that off behind or far in front of the astronaut, you've got another light source coming down onto the panels now. The baffle, I'm just going to call it the baffle, moves over again, and we see the light, and we see it go away. Now, a lot of my videos from before this video, you can see that I'm capturing a sun with a beam of light like what you see when this baffle moves over. You see this up and down, this top to bottom beam of light that just doesn't make sense. And it's interesting that that beam of light is happening here. So, of course, now when I see this matching the videos and pictures that I'm capturing on the ground, of course, this is going to catch my attention. So I kept reading and trying to figure out, like, what could this be that would create such a strong light? Now you see this, the beam up in the yellow beam, you see that it's there again, you just saw it. And we're capturing this thing down here on Earth. So this is weird. And now I'm asking the question, how is that thing happening at what is supposed to be the sun and also happening on the ISS within their studio lights? I'm going to call them studio lights. They're not studio lights. They are deck lights. They are vehicle lights. They're work lights. But I'm going to call them studio lights. So you see the beam there again, this yellow outrageous beam along with the hexagonal shapes. You see some dots, you see some reds, you see some green, I see some blue. You've got all these colors, and as far as I know, they make filters, those colors too. Yeah. Okay, so forgive me as I'm explaining this, and I'm using all these filler words like and yeah, this is just outrageous to me because it is outrageous and it doesn't make sense. And the theory that does make sense is even more disconcerting than sitting here looking at lights on the ISS that look like the lights I'm capturing on the ground when I take pictures of the sun. I am really at a loss here. So back to this footage. This was live captured off the ISS while they are changing out lights, checking on things, removing things, whatever it is that they're doing. According to press releases, were up there to change out lights. Yeah. So you see our beam again. And how is this just so easily covered? This is what's got me questioning, is that the sun or is it a light? And I have to lean more towards it being a light. Now I'll go back to that, but let's move ahead to uh, the footage of their sunrise, which I captured um, from days earlier. I believe this was the 28th of August or the 29th. Now, if you look in the bottom corner, in the bottom center, of the screen, you see a flashing light, right? You see this light flashing. Now, if you look up towards the top left of the screen, you'll see another flashing light that happens to be flashing too. Now you see the light at the bottom half of the screen is going off again, right? And to me, it seems like a signal, like a laser beam signal, right? And as these two things start to go off and do their, what I think is communication of some sort, like a garage door remote signals the garage door to open, you see the light in the center towards the top of the screen, which I'm going to call our sunlight. You see the sunlight start to get brighter, and it looks like sun's coming up. So, oh boy, yeah, that to me suggests that there's something out there, outside of, off the Earth, floating around in outer space there, and it signals or is communicating with something on top of the ISS. And once those two things communicate, sun begins to rise, whether it's naturally or on its or not naturally. Yeah, you could see it's coming up, and as it is starting to rise, you see parts of the ISS lighting up. Now, I want you to keep an occasional eye on whatever's happening to the far left of the screen that's attached to the pipe, this long pipe on the ISS. You see the ISS turn yellow, an orangish yellow. More yellow starts to be seen in the shot, and maybe it's the filters that make the ISS now turn to more of a silver daylight color. If you have daylight bulbs in your house, you know they are blue colored. Now, if you see off to the left of the screen that this square box attached to the ISS is letting off a light, and we have now lost what looked like sunrise coming up, right? And we see, if you keep watching, you're going to see this light source on the far left turn itself off. So let's watch what is supposed to be sunrise. Now you see our light change. I'm going to assume that this is an on-board light somewhere on the ISS that was lighting from behind and now is not. Or they're turning it down or whatever. Now the side that we're looking at, you can look towards the middle there of the large ISS tube on the right, and you'll see a red dot, a white. This is, I guess, a part of Japan's part of the ISS. Because for some reason, we can get along in outer space perfectly well. You know, Russia's up here too. We can all get along in outer space, but not on Earth. But let's skip over that and get back to looking.
That's a very valid point, that, by the way. It seems, I mean, at least my little understanding is that at the top, on all levels, they're all in bed together. But the show on the ground, at least for the people, is that they're basically divided in order to basically coerce the citizens of that country on the patriotic flag, as it were, so that they can basically have them do their bidding. And this goes all the way up to what I suspect is going to be the Malhama, the Third World War, a nuclear war that will happen. And in that, I believe that the leaders of every country are in on the same structure, and it's a staged, created one, a scripted one, which uses the Hegelian dialectic, and that's all structured under the thesis and the antithesis. It's something worth our reading up. It makes sense. We've been seeing it unfold uh, on countless occasions throughout the world, uh, before 9/11 and beyond. And we continue to see that, and I think we're going to see the largest example of that when they start the nuclear war. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best and protects. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protects the whole ummah.
Looking at our beautiful sunrise. So you see off in the far distance, off into the horizon, you see more of the earth being covered by the light, and then magically our sun just like pop, there it is. Now check it out. Our light source to the left has gone away. They turned it off, and we've got this hexagon.
Now, did you see that? So the light source below that was coming up on the horizon, now this is on ISS, was coming up. And then all of a sudden, right, it went down. And then you had this thing just pop up from nowhere. Our sun doesn't just pop up from nowhere, it slowly rises incrementally. Okay, and even the sunlight, when you see it, it slowly increases. Now, what happened is over here, it was increasing, it looked very artificial, and all of a sudden it just went down. And then you've got this, and it's almost like squarish if you look at it, and it's got that elusive halo around it, the one that we're seeing back here on Earth. And now look at the refractions of that sun, which are very true. If you can remember the panels, subhanallah, the solar sun simulator panels, and how it had all these hexagons on it, right? Subhanallah. And look, you've even got a hexagon shape inside the sun as well. And then the halo.
Shape flare that's coming out at us, along with these extra dots. If you see to the left of our, and I quote, sun, there's an orb of some sort to the left, an orb at the bottom, and possibly some orb somewhere else. But hey, check it out. There's that beam, that up and down, this beam that's going up here.
Now we're catching this beam in the Earth's atmosphere at the bottom. Photographers are amateur photographers. You've seen many images of suns where the sun looks very artificial, and you've got this big beam going all the way through it, which looks very artificial. This is a professional photographer who's been photographing the sun for like a lifetime, by the way.
This white beam and all of these beautiful horizontal shapes that are coming from, I don't even know what direction this is coming from now, but it looked like it was sunrise coming up from behind, and I'm basing that on the fact that we saw this white light coming up over the horizon of the earth, and then magically pop, there it is. Now, if you take a close look, you'll see around this, and
so look at all these refractions, right? All of them, hexagons. Hexagons, hexagons. You've got one inside there as well, subhanAllah. Remember, I shared a video as well, mashallah, with quite a few of you, of the halo that I caught myself. I mean, there's a lot of people catching it all over the world, but I caught it myself in Bolton once I was looking at the skies around the sun. It looked very, subhanAllah, it looked beautiful, but it was being refracted from space. And they were saying that there were ice crystals forming in our atmosphere which caused that halo around our sun. But if it was in our atmosphere, then you wouldn't see it in space. And look, in space, there's a vacuum. There are no ice crystals, yet you've still got the halo. Okay?
quote sunlight thing, you see a red to the left, green to the center, blue to the right. Red, green, and blue. We use these colors for television. We use this in film. These are the three colors that your eye will see, and you can put those colors together and make all types of other colors. And you can see by our
Now, did you hear that? So you've got red, was it green, and blue. And when you combine these colors, you can create any color you like, right? They're important colors when you're basically using holographic technology. Vital colors. I think I posted a video on that as well.
hexagonal shape there. We've got lots of different colors. Now, if you see to the left, lower left of our, and I quote, sun, you see an orb that is either the orb is moving away or our sunlight is moving away. along with our beam of light. Now, what I find most interesting is that we have this beam shooting straight through, up and down, top to bottom, and our flares from this light going to the left, and I'm assuming this is because our light, our big sunlight, is happening to the far right. So in the camera, based on the curvature of the lens, you're going to see this flip. Now, notice around the sun, some of us have captured this in our photos here on Earth. We've got this round darkness. Oh, look, they've adjusted it. See how it lightened up there? Just, it changed colors a bit. Now you can look at this sun and it looks yellow on the inside. And that can happen when you adjust the brightness going through one of those colorized filters. Now you see that our beam has turned purple. You see above the top of the beam.
So the filters have been adjusted on a solar sun simulator, which is causing this purple haze now. The sun remains one color in space. It doesn't matter. It's the stage at which we look at it from our surface that gives it its yellowness, orangeness, and pure whiteness throughout different stages of the day. But in space, it remains one color, right? Because it's stationary, subhanallah. It's not refracting through the atmosphere. But it's just sat there, mashallah, in its own orbit, subhanallah.
We have this green,
Now look at that.
oozy looking,
Ya Ajib.
weird
Allahu
light.
Akbar Kabira.
Something
Subhanallah. Something's not right there.
that's left that appears to leave a trail. They adjust the lights again, and you see our hexagon flaring change in shape, right? Now we have lost a lot of our beam's power that was going straight up and down. Our beam has taken more of an angle, and our hexagons have turned purple. And if you look towards the bottom of the screen, on the bottom left, you see our flaring goes off into what looks like total darkness. And dead ahead on the screen, and a bit to the right, you see two orbs. Now, if you keep looking past those, you're going to see a bunch of orbs, and they are in some type of lineup. There's some symmetry going on here.
One, two,
This
three.
is weird.
1, 2, 3,
So
4,
weird.
5, 6.
Man, what is that?
Right? That's not
Now you
meant to
can
be
clearly
happening in
see
space.
underneath. It's our Earth, and I quote, going by there. It's yeah. Now here's my question. You see our flaring happening. The flares that were once ginormous have become smaller and are now extended underneath the ISS, which to me indicates that our light source is overhead, but you still see these two orbs where, straight into the shot, you see these two white orbs. What are they doing? They're just hanging out. They're not going anywhere. Yeah. Now, if you look towards the orb that's further to the right, and you look just down, next to the A-shaped arm attached to the ISS, there is a red orb now. I don't know what that is. I don't know what any of these orbs are. I just see them, and as somebody who takes pictures, I'm fascinated by what is being lit up here, and it really feels like if that's the sun, its enhancements, it ain't natural. The enhancements that are going on right here are coming off the ISS, man. And I think that there's something happening off the horizon that is enhancing this light, turning it on, turning it off, making it brighter, repurposing it. I did a lot of research, as much as I could with the time I had online, and I found a number of things that could be up there. It's fascinating. if you just start having a look around. Now, here comes our light source again in the shot, and you got this round sundog type of flaring going on that we saw at the beginning of, and I quote, sunrise. We see this sundog again, and I wanted to show you guys a bit closer of what I believe is the communication that I believe is happening between two.
Okay, guys, we're gonna slightly move on just so that I can speed through this. Let's see what she's got to say further on, if she does. I think she's explained the Fresnel lens quite a bit. Okay, let's go back to this.
If you look around this big black circle and the beam, you see you have like a pink purple light, you've got your green smudge at the bottom, you've got your greens and your blues, but what is constant is this hexagon.
There's very real
So
evidence now, subhanallah, of a solar sun simulator. It's not make believe. We've seen all these unusual anomalies. In the previous a few videos I've shared earlier on, you'll find that we spoke about and we discussed this halo around the sun that was being witnessed, and the one that I caught myself with my iPhone. And then we've discussed this hexagon refraction coming out from the sun into our atmosphere and where that was coming from, right? When the sun is circular, always has been. But then we saw the patents with NASA, where they applied for, in 1971, a solar sun simulator which has these hexagonal panels on it. And then we see the refractions of the petals around the sun when people are taking pictures of it, which naturally they're not actually taking pictures of our sun, they're actually taking pictures of a fake sun, okay, whilst they're occluding our sun, cloaking it.
is the sun a hexagon shape? See, I don't think it is. I don't know. I'm not up there. I just don't think it is. But I think the enhancement or whatever they have floating around up there, I think that has a hexagonal flaring, a hexagonal shadowing, a mirroring effect of some sort, perhaps.
There you go. That's the actual, the pattern that we saw? Well, this is the actual pattern made on the ground, constructed. So we showed you some drawings, if you can remember. Those drawings, this is the actual thing, right? This is a solar sun simulator that you're looking at right now, okay? And the hexagons that we're seeing refracted and the petals we're seeing refracted from the sun as we take pictures of it, and how the sun feels very false, very artificial, very unreal, right? And it almost burns whilst you're out there. I mean, that's something I've never experienced in my lifetime once being out there. This almost hypothesis explains all those anomalies away. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I'm going to let her continue.
The covering on it is of a hexagon shape. The light could be a hexagon shape. There could be tubing around the light that's pushing off a hexagonal shape. And that doesn't explain the orbs that are still in plain view straight ahead in the shot, floating over the earth. That is not a flare. That's not a refraction. It's not it could be reflecting off, and that's what's lighting it up, but it is reflecting off something, and it's reflecting towards something. Yeah. This is crazy. Now, if you look in the shot I've got going here, the flaring that's coming off of this artificial sun has, if you notice, just above this round part of the ISS, there are rings with holes in them, and as they are brightened up, it looks like the ring edge around a studio light. I'm just reminded of that. I'm not saying that's what it is, but it looks like the edge plating of a studio light. And then around in the center of that edge would be the bulb. It could also be a ring light. As I said, if you're making lights for outer space, they'd have to be custom made, and who knows what shape they'd be in. But, you know, if I were going to do that, of course, I'd probably have to match some shapes that are out there. We got a of the screen, and it's and big, gigantic lights that are equivalent to the sunlight. Now, if you are into cars, you've heard of xenon bulbs. The bulbs that they have on board the ISS can only be better than a xenon bulb, higher quality, less likely to explode, going up and down, top to bottom of the screen. So we're seeing the same thing up there as we are down here, right? There's the sunlight, there's the sky,
Those other factions, that's a halo, right?
I mean, these are spectacular images. But
this is in space, that's on the ground.
When you see stuff like this,
remember I shared this with you.
You gotta ask, is it natural?
There you go. There it is in
what
space,
I'm showing
so
you
it's
here
not in our atmosphere.
Is a really gigantic ball. Yes, I know, it's huge. It's freaking huge, isn't it? Totally. So, at one point in time, this was in outer space. In 1966, the U.S. Air Force launched the PASCOM-SAT, a 9-meter, 30 feet, inflatable communication satellite. Okay,
someone asked me not so long ago, in fact it was, I can understand it, the obvious question to ask is how did they get this technology out there in space without them being detected? Well, there you go. I mean, how many of us know that they actually launched this in outer space as well, and it's deflatable and inflatable, right?
Big 30-foot black ball, also known as OV-1-8, or a passive communication satellite, basically. Now, this was a part of the orbiting vehicle program that they were running. The satellite functioned as a reflector, not a transceiver, so that after it was placed in low Earth orbit, a signal would be sent to it, reflected or bounced off its surface, and then returned to Earth. This grid-shaped sphere with all these grids, you see these hexagonal shapes? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? This design was put all over the sphere in an effort to reduce the effects of solar pressure and space drag, which they discovered was a problem during Project Echo. You can look that up. The Air Force contracted with Goodyear Aerospace for a construction of this big black ball, this big space balloon. This thing was made of soft aluminum with wire grid embedded in this special design, and this was supposed to dissolve out in outer space under the sun's strong ultraviolet rays. So I guess that means there's nothing to worry about of this thing falling back to Earth, right? So they launched this thing in July of 66, y'all, 1966.
Did you hear that? So Subhanallah, in 1966, they launched this in space. July. Interesting again. I mean, for them, I mean, the woman won't realize this, but for those of us who study mystery religions, you'll find that sacred geometry, hexagons, and then even symmetry and even numbers, maths play a huge part. Now, she just mentioned that this particular project was launched, and remember, NASA, I understand this to be the case, at the top are run by elitists who have satanic allegiances. Okay, and for them, they basically their religious thought lends itself to the Babylonian, ancient Egyptian, and other religious mystery religions, and it's a blend of that. And this is where Masonry is drawn from. What's interesting is what she mentioned. The date was July 1966. Now, if you take July, that's the sixth month of the year, and then you got 66, 1966. You got three sixes there, 666, which is a number of a man in his lowest uh, vibration, so a bestial state, as opposed to his above angelic one, which is what insan can become if he, subhanallah, realigns himself to the article of faith, kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He can become in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He can have that uruj. He can basically be raised to that status beyond the angels in terms of his character, his sifat, and stuff like that. But this is the 666 in the occult represents man at his bestial form, in his lustful, in his greed, in his so he vibrates on a very shallow level spiritually. It's interesting. I mean, they don't do anything other than on full moons or certain dates. There's symmetry in all of it. 9/11 wasn't uh, um, just an accident. There's a purpose behind those dates. They're significant to the elitists and other dates as well. But that's another discussion for another time.
This went up on top of an Atlas rocket. It went into orbit, and that's where they inflated it with helium. The plastic covering dissolved, leaving an open aluminum structure orbiting the Earth. They did their tests on it and discovered that it was going to stay in orbit for at least 11 years, and it had a reflective power 5 times greater than that of a solid sphere. The satellite decayed from orbit on January 4th, 1978.
Imagine how many technological advances they've made since, and how many things they've
So
actually
in
launched in
1966,
space
they had the ability
since.
to put a balloon, a reflective balloon, that could reflect signals, could reflect light, and can float for 11 years in the sun. So if that was in 66, and they had to till 78, 11 years to study that thing, how far have we gotten now? Now, I showed you some of the next image. Extremely tiny, rolled up 3-dimensional carbon tubes. Fullerene 6 of nanotubing, carbon nanotube, and as long as 3.
Okay, guys, I'm sorry. I know. I mean, the retention is quite difficult, especially when I post so many things. But like I said, the information, it's quite overwhelming. It's coming in really fast. MashaAllah, this is a lady who's subscribed to the channel, and uh, um, she's a very nice person. She's taken some amazing photography here down on the ground. I've used some of her photography in my videos, and now she's done this little piece and put it together. She's a professional photographer, so she's taken it from a photography scientific point of view, and she's looking at this and studying it and tearing it apart, and all of it again alludes towards a solar sun simulator being used right now as we speak, and how that could be possible. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Again, Jazakallahu khairan wa ahsanul jaza for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.